All good? Everyone seated? All right. Welcome you all. My name is Kamar Khan. Thank you so much for making your way here in this terrible weather. We really appreciate for you to come here. Yeah. All right. And another good sign is I can see a lot of new faces today, so which is a good sign. Always a good sign. I don't have a lot of slides to bore you, but just a few to bore you. Um, so first of all, my name is Kamar Khan, and we pay respect to the country people on whose lands this event is getting conducted, and we pay respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. This is a part of our quarterly event. So if you heard about us, we are a volunteer-run group community, and we have been doing this, I think, more than a couple of years now, and we have grown quite a large in terms of ANZ region. We recently had a similar event in Sydney. We had very good attendance there, about 70 people, I think. So it was a great event there. So today we have about 3 knowledge sessions. And then after that, we will have some time for you to have a chat round and, we'll give you some opportunity for networking, talk to your friends and talk to some new people maybe. So today's layout, we will start with the session from Stephen. Stephen will be joining us from New Zealand, and just right after these couple of slides, I'll hand him over. And after that, so Eugene will be here to support Stephen in case you have any questions. And then we will move to Zishan. Zishan is also in New Zealand. So first 2 sessions will be online sessions. We now all know what goes in a hybrid session. So I don't have to tell you, like, if something goes wrong, just bear with us. And last one, we will have a session from Hisham. So Hisham is here. So that's very good. Just a quick introduction to our volunteer team. So these are the faces who basically make these events possible. And I hope some of you may know some of them by now, but if not, if you have any questions about our community, if you want to present a session like the speakers are doing here today, then we encourage you to reach out and just contact or grab any of these. Yeah, Trent. All right, so these are just quick numbers. So we have a WhatsApp group. If you're not in there, so that's exclusively for the ANZ region members. So we can add you. Some of any of our volunteers can add you there. And also we have a LinkedIn page. We do encourage you to join that because then you will know when we are conducting any similar sort of events there. And most of our videos and the recordings go to our YouTube channel. So you can subscribe to that as well. Very important. So I want to thank our sponsors. So this is a sponsored event. As a volunteers, we don't get any pay, unfortunately, but still we get some money from our sponsors, which can cover a lot of expenses that we do. So I want to thanks to One Dynamics. I think Faisal was not able to be here. He's on his way. Yeah, his little one was sick. Thanks to Ojas.
He's also on his way.
Okay, that's good. Thanks to Integro. So I think Tala is there. Thank you so much for supporting us. And we welcome George from Z. George is our regular sort of supporter, but now he has, decided to give us some access to his bank account. So he has become our sponsor. And thank you so much for Microsoft. They're always lovely to talk to and very easy to make this event happen. And special thanks to that man over there, Eugene. Thank you so much. All right. Without any further delay, so because we are also streaming this session, so there will be a little bit hiccups. I hope we will avoid most of them. All right. So what I'll do now is I'll just hand it over to Stephen from New Zealand, and Stephen will introduce himself and we'll start the session. Hey, Stephen, I hope you can hear us.
Yes, I can. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent.
So that's the first hiccup I just told you about.
So while that's getting ready,
That's all right.
just
That's
quickly
okay.
introduce myself. I am Stephen Coppens, a fast-track solution architect based out of New Zealand, as was mentioned. And I'm here today to talk to you about Synapse Link, Link to Fabric, and business performance analytics. Now we're just waiting for them to get my slides up. There we go. So without any further ado, let's get into this. We have a packed agenda for the session. We'll spend a moment talking about Dataverse and the unified vision, then move on to talk about the two main patterns for reporting across Dynamics 365 data. One being Link to Fabric, also known as and referred to sometimes as Fabric Link, and the other Synapse Link. Then we'll talk about the transition paths before looking at a utility we've created, which is called Entity Util, and how customers can leverage this Entity Util to help assist them in moving from BYOD to Synapse Link or Fabric Link. Closing out the session on Synapse Link and Link to Fabric, we'll look at how these technologies could help save money. And in the end, I'll briefly touch upon one of our latest reporting tools, business performance analytics. So let's first look at the vision of the future and what that looks like. For Microsoft, it is a case of leveraging and enhancing the powers of the Dataverse and offering a truly unified experience. There are a number of programs underway to create this unified experience. Some have been available for years, such as Dual Write. Some are relatively new, and some are still coming. Today, we'll look at data and how, by understanding the data and its intent, Dataverse provides turnkey capabilities in a consistent manner over all of its data. No more will there be a variety of different tools and technologies to choose from. The Dataverse is not just a database or storage, it encompasses everything that is needed to build integrated applications, processes, and insights across the enterprise. This comes in many forms, from data storage to APIs and business logic and events, to reporting and analytics and AI, all the way through to security and compliance. And because it is a low-code data platform, developers can spend more time focusing on business needs through the configuration of the system and less time building infrastructure. So let's look at how data can be exported for analytical and reporting purposes. There have been various technologies available for exporting data from Dynamics 365 apps. These technologies have a long history, which you are all probably familiar with. So for the benefit of time, let's recap by saying that they were at the leading edge when they were made available. However, that was years ago. And since then, new and better technologies and architectures have become available. And thus, we're moving away from the old and looking towards the future. With that said, I am sure those using export to data lake feature within finance and operations apps are aware that the deprecation was announced late last year and the date is the 1st of November of this year. So going forward, there are two patterns that we want to focus on. The first is Fabric Link. Fabric Link offers a no-copy approach to accessing customers' data. This relies upon Microsoft OneLake, which we'll discuss shortly. Fabric Link enables a low-code makers and data analysts to securely work with their data. On top of that, Fabric can be used to create virtual entities across the data, and these virtual entities can be called from within the Power Platform to be leveraged by low-code users to do more with that data. The second pattern we will focus on is Synapse Link. This approach continuously exports data from a customer's Dynamics 365 app to a customer's data lake. Once that is hosted in your own Azure subscription, this architecture enables IT admins and data engineers to work with Azure Synapse and other tools to create analytics and reports. Both of these rely upon a new technology to determine the data that has changed. This new technology, row version change tracking, is very efficient, and by simplifying the way changes are tracked and data can be exported, there is an upside as the impact to the operational workload is reduced. It is also worthwhile pointing out that because this is a different technology, it can run in parallel to existing technologies such as BYOD and export to data lake. Thus, customers can transition gradually, avoiding the risk of a big bang cutover. So I mentioned Microsoft OneLake. So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, and before looking at Fabric Link in greater detail, I just want to go over and explain a bit about Microsoft OneLake. Microsoft OneLake is a managed lake experience that is managed by Dataverse in Microsoft subscription, and it is known as the Microsoft OneLake. This means that Dataverse will create and deploy the lake and allow secure access to the lake. So when leveraging Fabric Link technology, the Delta Parquet formatted files will be stored in the Dataverse Microsoft OneLake. Many first-party apps will also leverage the Microsoft OneLake, such as Business Performance Analytics, which I'll talk about at the end of this presentation. I know many of you will be wondering about space and costs, and we'll look at those later in the presentation. Now, let's take a moment to reflect on what a typical legacy architecture might look like, and then we'll look at how Fabric Link, or Link to Fabric, can help simplify it. You'll notice that there are or were multiple different technologies available to export data from both finance and operations apps, as well as customer engagement apps. These push data into either a data lake as CSV files or into Azure SQL databases. From there, the data would typically be transformed and moved to other systems. For example, pipelines were created to move the data into third-party apps such as Snowflake, or it was made available in Azure Synapse Serverless before being consumed by a presentation layer such as Power BI. It is worth remembering that BYOD has had an impact on some operational workloads, as the data has been materialized within the transactional database before being exported to BYOD. Of course, this is just focusing on Dynamics 365 apps. When you consider larger or enterprise companies with a multitude of apps, the landscape can move from a complex architecture to an extremely complex architecture. Adding to the complexity is a multitude of technologies, and all of this adds to high maintenance costs and an overall high end-to-end cost to get data from point A to the final presentation or consumption layer. So let's take a moment to see how Fabric Link, or Link to Fabric, can simplify the architecture. Firstly, we can see that the data is stored in the Microsoft OneLake. This can simplify the deployment, as a customer no longer needs to deploy their own data lake, or because most customers have multiple environments in which they want to test out various and build solutions, it's more likely that it will stop them needing to deploy multiple data lakes for all of those sandbox environments. It also simplifies the security, as the access is secured by the Dataverse. So we've simplified the deployment and we've simplified the security. Next, we'll see that the data can be accessed via shortcuts. These shortcuts allow Fabric to read the data without needing to move the data. However, using Fabric data flows, for example, the data can be moved to Fabric OneLake and transformed into a lakehouse, leveraging medallion architecture patterns for faster reads and enabling the data to be sanitized. Microsoft Fabric also combines separate tools into a single user experience, which helps to reduce the number of technologies that are required. All of this simplifies the architecture and helps to reduce the maintenance costs, which in turn help drive down the end-to-end costs. There is a link in the resources section of this presentation to a demo which takes you through the steps to enable Link to Fabric, and then how you can select a few tables to export data, and then from there how you can leverage Fabric to create your first reports. So to recap, with Fabric Link, data will stay in the Dataverse with secure access or Dataverse governance boundaries. With secure access allowed from Fabric, customers do not need to deploy their own data lakes, and there is no impact on operational workloads. Due to the low-code nature, it is easier to upskill users, and by leveraging Fabric copilots, users can get work done faster. And of course, the ability to create virtual entities across the data allows low-code users to build new apps and drive actions using the Power Platform. The other pattern we are going to look at today is Synapse Link for Dataverse. In this pattern, data is continuously exported from Dynamics 365 apps via the Synapse Link pipeline to a customer's data lake. The data is exported as CSV files, and a Spark job is run to convert the CSV files into Delta Parquet formatted files. Each configured Synapse profile can have a different frequency specified in which the Spark job is triggered in order to convert those files into Delta Parquet formatted files. This frequency does not change how often the incremental data is exported to the CSV file, but rather how often that Spark job converts the files into Delta Lake formats. One thing to know is that customers can set up Synapse Link so that the CSV files are not converted into Delta Parquet formatted files. This is referred to as incremental CSV and closely resembles the export to data lake service. So let's take a moment quickly to reflect on that typical architecture again. Once more, you'll notice the different technologies to export data from Dynamics 365 apps. And to recap, this complexity can lead to higher maintenance costs and higher end-to-end costs for moving and transforming data from source to the eventual consumption or presentation layer. By using Synapse Link, this architecture is simplified. We are removing the multitude of technologies to export the data, and we are simplifying by converting the data into Delta Parquet formatted files. So while you can still export the data as CSV to support migration from export to data lake for finance and operations, we are confident that by converting to Delta Lake, customers will get a better performance and features which will lead them to adopt this approach. While with the data incrementally exported via Synapse Link and converted into Delta Lake formatted files by Spark Jobs, we're simplifying the architecture and reducing the need to or habit of exporting multiple copies of the data. Once exported, the new format will enable faster querying processing and lower read costs because of the Delta format, and simplification as Databricks and Snowflake can work directly on the data lake. This will in turn reduce the maintenance costs as well as those end-to-end costs. You can take this architecture and further simplify it and reduce the need for data duplication and end-to-end costs with Microsoft Fabric and the use of shortcuts. You can leverage all the goodness of Fabric, but still have the data exported to your own data lake. And this is by using Fabric shortcuts to read the data. So to recap, if you are not ready to adopt Fabric, you can extend your current investments by leveraging Synapse Link to export the data from Dynamics 365 apps to a storage account in your own subscription. And then with minimal changes, you can continue using your downstream pipelines. The conversion to Delta Parquet formatted files in near real time offers a potential for faster querying and reduced storage costs as the files are compressed. If you're a Dynamics 365 customer engagement customer, you should have already moved off data export service. So for this presentation, we'll focus on the paths forward for finance and operations apps. Customers who might still be on BYOD or export to data lake. If you are a new customer and haven't gone live yet, you should be implementing the new patterns and avoiding BYOD and export to data lake. For export to data lake migration to Synapse Link, you're able to export the files in CSV, and we've published information on the audit columns that are different between export to data lake and Synapse Link. And these are available, this information is all available on GitHub. Therefore, while there is a change to the folder structure, we believe that the changes necessary to the underlying pipelines will be relatively minor. Therefore, let's focus our attention onto BYOD, or more specifically, how you can create entity schemas the same as they are as exported to BYOD. So when it comes to BYOD, and for those of you who have very familiar with Dynamics 365 finance and operations, there's a concept called an entity. Entities such as Customer V3, which are used a lot for importing and exporting of data. And these are used for exporting data to BYOD. And one of the most significant issues is that BYOD exports data in the materialized entity shape. However, Synapse Link exports data as tables or as simple entities. So simple entities are entities that conform to a set of rules which make them more efficient than complex entities, and we won't get into the details in this session. However, there's lots of information online if you are interested. So if you are exporting simple entities to your BYOD, the migration will be relatively simple, as they can be made visible and have change tracking enabled before exporting the data in the materialized entity shape via Synapse Link. However, for complex entities, it is more difficult. Therefore, the Fast Track team has collaborated and created a PowerShell tool, which we've called Entity Util, that is available on GitHub. This tool allows customers to identify the complex entities that they want to export. The tool will then read and document the entity structure in a JSON file, and use this information to then create the views within the target environments. And it's these views that represent the complex entities so that you can reference the view instead of the table, thus minimizing the downstream impact or changes that may be needed in the downstream. And by view, I am referring to an SQL view. So that's when a number of tables are joined together and effectively a query that you can just execute, and it will return the data in that particular format. These views can be created in Fabric or in Azure SQL database or a serverless database, or even in the replica database created by Synapse Link. Just one note on that is that you cannot create it in the same DBO database schema. Thus, you have options. You can refactor your downstream systems to leverage the tables as they are exported directly via Synapse Link, or you can leverage Entity Util to help you recreate those complex views, those complex entities as views in your target systems. So one of the questions we are asked most often relates to the cost. Customers want to understand if this change is going to cost them more or save them money in the long term, thus helping them put forward a business justification for the effort required. So let's take a moment to consider how costs can be viewed. While it is difficult to give a general one-size-fits-all answer, when we look at the full end-to-end process, there are various areas that you can look at in more depth in order to start the cost comparison. And we will break down the end-to-end process and highlight where we believe customers and partners can start collecting that cost information to build a comparison. So the first area is that high maintenance cost for all the different tools being used to export data. With Synapse Link or Link to Fabric, these should be reduced. Next, you can look at the storage and compute costs for all the data that is being ingested. Then you can look at the compute costs for the transformation and data ingestion. There is also the cost for staging the data. And last but not least, there is the cost for the presentation layer. Keeping those key areas in mind, let's look at how these costs map when looking at Synapse Link architecture. Firstly, we can see that it is a simplified architecture, as I've mentioned, and as such should hopefully have a lower maintenance cost. You should save money on SQL compute, though there are costs associated with converting the files to Delta, and we'll look at some estimates shortly. Next, there should be lower transformation and integration costs as the data is already optimized in Delta Lake format. The staging costs are likely comparable. Likewise, the presentation costs are also likely comparable. As mentioned, let's look a bit more at the cost of converting data into Delta format. It is important to highlight that customers are only paying for the Spark jobs when the job is running. Therefore, if you are only running the jobs hourly, it will be less expensive than if you are running the job every 15 minutes. Another factor to consider is the size of the Spark pools. The small to medium are approximately half the price of the medium to large Spark pools. So when looking at the end-to-end costs, it's important to focus on the potential savings from the overall maintenance of the solution, as well as the potential for reduced storage and ingestion costs, leading to a lower transformation and integration costs. Now let's compare with Link to Fabric. So when customers enable Fabric Link, the data is stored in the Dataverse security and governance boundary. The data, and again, as I mentioned, all of this, the data lake that is created, the Microsoft One Lake, is all created by the Dataverse when you enable this capability. And that data is converted automatically, or is converted into Delta formatted files by Spark jobs. However, these jobs are managed by Microsoft. Thus, customers are charged by the Dataverse capacity that is being used by the Delta files. However, it is important to remember that the design of the Delta files allows for a lot of compression. The factor is different between tables. However, we have seen some very large compression factors. And finally, there is the Fabric compute to read and transform data. So, as I mentioned earlier, Microsoft is also leveraging the capabilities of the Microsoft One Lake and the Synapse Link, Fabric Link profiles in order to generate our own reports or first-party apps for our customers. And one of the first ones that's being made available is the Business Performance Analytics, or BPA as it's commonly referred to. So our Dynamics apps vision is based and focused on the 3 A's: AI, automation, and analytics. The key objective is through the collaboration of all applications that we offer, we connect processes, people, and data in every organization to provide the ability for our customers to adapt faster or rapidly innovate. When the BPA project began, the team identified 3 core principles that they wanted to be led by. We know how hard it is to create reports, especially analytical reports out of Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations apps. As such, one of the first core principles of BPA was to make the experience of using the tools and creating reports easy and as painless as possible for users. Obviously, customers need to trust the data, and so ensuring the data is correct, secured, and trustworthy has also been a core pillar. And finally, we wanted to learn from the past. So we wanted to make sure it was extensible, not only in the context of the schema of the models, but also enabling a mashup of data from external sources. So let's look at how BPA helps us achieve this. The approach was not only to focus on Dynamics 365 data, as mentioned, but also to allow usage of data from other systems and look at reporting from a value chains model perspective. The value chain is the grouping of business processes. This approach was selected as it aligns more closely with how specific users or roles within an organization would use the system. These should hopefully look familiar to you. The initial effort has been on the first 4 value chains. That is record to report, procure to pay, order to cash, and acquire to retire. However, the goal is to cover all value chains within Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. On top of these value chains, we added a dimensional role-based security model to align the security of the data with the roles and the value chains. And then on top of all of that, we expose the presentation layer where users can leverage the out-of-the-box reports or create their own, and of course, leverage Copilot to get the most out of the data with the least amount of effort. So taking a moment to look into the data value chains associated with finance, which are the first data value chains that will be made available with BPA, we have, as mentioned, record to report. Here you can see we have from the top budget and forecasting through budget reservation all the way down to general ledger. Next, there is procure to pay. which starts at the top with purchase requisition and flows all the way through to payment. This is followed by order to cash, which begins with sales or service orders and goes through the value chain all the way to sales, payments, collections, and cash. Finally, there is acquire to retire. And we have followed the same pattern of following the data all the way from acquisition through to retirement or disposal. The really powerful part of this design is that you're not limited to just one part of the process. So, for example, in procure to pay, you aren't limited to just reporting on the purchase order process, which is represented by the box. But you can report all the way down and back up the data value chains. An even more powerful perspective is that you can report across the data value chains. So you could start with the general ledger entry for that purchase order and look across all of the data value chains and the associated data. So let's take a moment to look at the architecture for BPA. First, you'll see on the left that, as mentioned, the data is extracted from Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations apps. The data is exported using the same Synapse link pipeline we previously spoke about, and data is written to the Microsoft OneLake. Next, there are Spark jobs. These jobs read and transform the data into the facts and dimensional models, and then this data is written back to the lake in this transformed state. Next, this data is moved into the embedded Power BI workspace. This is the load phase. The BPA app uses Power BI workspace and can access this data to produce the reports using Excel or embedded Power BI. So we recommend that if you haven't already, you install BPA and start exploring the reports and capabilities that are available out of the box and add all of this wonderful additional value. As mentioned, there are a ton of resources available, and we will share this deck afterwards. And so with that said, any questions? I can't hear anything.
No questions, Stephen, so far.
Oh,
But thanks for the session.
Great job. You know everything. Excellent.
This is the opportunity, guys. Stephen is here if you have any question.
Can you take the mic to?
You can ask that. Just unmute me. So what are the licensing implications, Stephen? That's the question.
For business performance analytics. So for business performance analytics, there will be the core product is available with your standard Dynamics 365 license. However, if there's in the future roadmap, when I was talking about extensibility and mashing up data and these sort of more advanced capabilities, there may be licensing implications down that path. However, those are still in development, so no decision has yet been made.
No question, then thank you, Stephen, for the session. It was really insightful. A lot of new things coming.
Well, everyone, enjoy the rest of
question.
the wonderful presentations and the networking and the drinks and nibbles. And hopefully next time I can get over there and do this face-to-face. But in the meantime, have a wonderful evening and thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. Neri, you have a question? Yeah.
Compared to the custom have to pay more than usual, but the long-term goal is reducing price. But I'm not sure how low is
So the question is around short-term and long-term price for this architecture. Neri, is that the question? Yeah. Any thoughts on return of investment on this platform, Stephen? I know you are not a licensing guy.
But so if we're talking about Synapse Link and Fabric Link, I think there's again, there's no easy answer, unfortunately. It's a case of looking at what you're currently using and then trying to map it to the capabilities that are available from using Synapse Link or Fabric Link, and determining what's the best technology and approach for you moving forward. It really depends on each organization, each company has its own architecture, so to speak, or architecture. And so I just can't give a blanket answer. I can only say, use these sort of pillars that I was talking about, and understand where your money is currently going, and how by moving towards these new capabilities, how that maps out and compares.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. And we have seen a lot of technical slides too. And so now to make the mood a bit light, we have a fun activity. So, Kamar, can you please present the name wheel on the screen? Guys, we are trying to wrap up all the sessions by 7:30, and then we will open up for pizza and drinks. Before moving, you started moving already. Okay. So let's first give a big round of applause to Sajid Ali. He has got a voucher. Before moving the wheel again, if your name is not here, then please check in. If you have not checked in, your name will not appear here. So we have 2 more rounds of the game. So you'll be covered in next round. Yeah. Yeah. So next one is, let's see. Shivangi. Cheers, Antoinette. Where are you? Yeah. So we are going with 5 people this time. Yeah. No. You are disqualified. So now you can't complain that you don't get paid for it, Kamar. Yeah. All right. Ooh, Anita. That was a close call. Number 4. Last one for this round.
Otherwise, we'll know. We're lucky. There we go.
Okay. Muhammad Khan. Congratulations. All right. So now I will like to hand over to our next presenter, Zishan. He is also joining us from New Zealand. And before handing over to him, we opened this time the opportunity to the users of the community. So these sessions are presented by them based on their, they raise their hand and they want to present here. So they deserve a big round of applause for standing up. Okay, over to Zishan now. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone can see my screen. Rajat, if you can confirm me. Sweet. All right. Well, today we have chosen the modern banking reconciliation as a for D365 FinOps topic. I believe that this is a hot topic these days from Microsoft, and Microsoft is spending a lot of money and time in order to have this automation process. So I thought to, cover this particular topic in today's session. And thank you everyone for having me here. Those who don't know me, my name is Ishan Sheikh. I'm working as a senior solution architect with HSO. These are my details if anyone would like to connect with me over Gmail or LinkedIn. I've got a 16 years of work experience working on AX D365 implementation. Uh, I'm also working with ANZ D365 FinOps user group powered by Microsoft. So I'm the volunteer working with you guys. You might not have seen me a lot in those particular sessions because I'm based in New Zealand, Christchurch. Okay. In today's session, what we will be covering and understanding the concept of the modern bank reconciliation. So I will try to explain the whole concept of what Microsoft is planning in this particular space and how much you can get benefit of this particular functionality. And I have three different projects are running, and we are still working on this modern banking reconciliation, and it's really works fine for them at this stage. There are a couple of lesson learned and the challenges which I have identified. We will be talking about it. Okay. So first thing first, modern bank reconciliation is the enhanced functionality that is defined on top of the advanced bank reconciliation. So what it means is you have to have the advanced bank reconciliation to be activated in order to adopt the modern bank reconciliation. So before I jump into the modern bank reconciliation, the concept of this advanced bank reconciliation is you will be importing the file format which is provided by the bank. Either it will be MT940 IS 20002 or it's a BAI2 file format or anything. So each bank has their own file format that you have to import it into the system. Now it dependent upon the client, either you want to import it through the SharePoint folder or you are planning to do some integration where the bank will be placing the file in SFTP folder, and then we will pull the file from the banking SFTP folder to SharePoint folder. And from there, it's standard where you can pull the file and import it into FNO through electronic reporting. So modern bank reconciliation makes life a bit easier and simplified for most of the organizations here in ANZ. So this particular functionality is available as a preview version in 10.0.39. Having said that, according to Microsoft, the GA version will be available in 2 weeks' time, which is in 10.0.41 version. Uh, on the side note, I am also coordinating with Microsoft on this particular functionality as we found couple of issues, bugs, and errors. To understand and mitigate those particular issues, Microsoft may come up with this particular functionality and break some of the functionality at this stage. What it means is they might have to release some of the functionality, and some of the functionality may be available in a later version because they are finding lots of bugs in that particular space. So if you want to adopt this particular functionality, it will be readily available in 10.0.41 version, which is coming up on 13th of September 2024. So what this particular functionality does is it will automate majority of your processes uh, without making any modification. So I still remember that there were a couple of implementation that we were doing it for last couple of years. Sometimes bank is not providing us the right transaction codes. So we had to manipulate the information on the bank statement by speaking with the client. What are the information that we will be expecting it from the bank? And if it's required, we can change the transaction code to something which is meaningful for the business, because transaction code was the key where you can map the GL account code to the transaction code to rectify those particular transaction and make those particular entry. And that's the only one single item where we could be able to uh, make use of this advanced bank reconciliation. But when we talk about the subledgers like customers or vendors, those particular functionality was unknown, it was not available for us. So within this modern banking reconciliation, you have the option to point out to to the reference of those particular transactions which were being made by the vendors, like direct debits, vendors or the customers. You can point out to the references, and then you can point out to the specified vendor ID or customer ID to create those particular transaction from bank statement. So you don't have to go into the uh, to payment journals to create those particular entries into the system. So the whole algorithm from the matching rule have been updated compared to advanced bank reconciliation. Another thing which most of the customer really liked it is the interface. Uh, the interface, you will be able to see lots of differences and positive differences, where you can be able to see how many transactions are being matched, how many transactions are still open, and the matching, unmatching, and new transaction. It has a proper visibility rather than you keep scrolling down and minimizing and other stuff in this particular space. So this particular area is pretty much very like it was liked by the customer, and they were really enjoying this particular interface at this stage. And the matching rule, as I have mentioned, that it is very handy and flexible enough to reutilize it as per what you can do that. But in this particular case, I have identified that you have to still use the Excel add-in or the data management to import the matching rules. Since you will be working on the direct debits, customers, and the vendors, and you will be writing lots of logic, you have to hands-on on the Excel add-in to understand what matching rules you need to define it in order to push it in bulk rather than you manually key in those particular information. Okay, and again, this particular functionality has been integrated with your AP AR in order to make those AP transactions or the AR transaction through the bank. And again, as I mentioned about the interface, they have enhanced the analytics and the reports. So it has brought forward a very good visibility for the user to understand where they are, what they actually need to perform in the system. So without a further ado, let's go into the system to show you what changes Microsoft have done. And I will try to present a couple of the matching rules for you to make you understand how you can be able to use it in your daily life. So I'm on Contoso environment. This particular version which I'm using it is 10.0.40. First thing first, you have to go into the feature management. And you have to find modern bank reconciliation here. As I mentioned, that this particular functionality is available in 10.0.41 as a GA, but at this stage, since I'm sitting in 10.0.40, it is still appearing it as preview. And one more thing, you can't, but there are a couple of features after speaking with Microsoft that you can enable it in the production environment. But this particular specified feature, which I have noticed that it's prohibited. You can't really, activate it as such. So I have activated it. You will just enable this particular feature. The moment you will enable this particular feature, there will be a couple of other setups will be activated for you. What are those particular setups are? If I go into the bank account master record, this is the one of the bank account that I have already created it. In this particular space, I will go into the reconciliation option. Now, as I mentioned that this particular functionality is top of assigned it on top of the advanced bank reconciliation. So these are the added functionality that Microsoft have introduced in this particular space. What it means is you can be able to define the customer payment journal in this particular space. So what it means is whenever based on the matching rules that you have defined it, system will automatically create those particular journals. If you wish to create a manual journal by looking into the customer bank statement, you can create those particular entries by choosing the option that, yeah, this is the customer transaction that I have identified, which was very difficult to do it through the matching rules. So I will create it through the bank reconciliation journal instead of going into the AR module and create those particular entry. Same case with AP uh, for that. Another change which Microsoft have done in this particular space is whenever we used to create the GL entries through the advanced bank reconciliation, assuming that merchandise fees or service fees that has came up on your bank statement, and we do have a matching tool. So what system does is system basically directly create those particular transaction into the voucher. It doesn't create any sort of journal for you. Now, in this modern bank reconciliation, they have introduced a journal concept. So you can actually see the journal entries within this particular functionality. Yeah. So once you define this particular setup, obviously you have to have the bank statement format that I have already defined it in this particular space. You have to define it accordingly, according to the bank. Once you define that, you will go and import the bank statement. Now, you might have noticed that uh, Microsoft have also updated the status for the bank statement screen. Previously, it was appearing it in the classic advanced bank reconciliation was validated and reconciled. Now they have changed it. So they have they have the option for clicking on the validate and then confirm rather than validated option. So that has been updated in this particular space. Rest of the information from the representation on the grid is the same. You will go into the statement lines. Here, this is the new representation that Microsoft have introduced. Previously, it was just a header details, which was talking about your opening balance and the closing balance and how many transactions we see in this particular space. Now they have changed a lot in this particular area, and they have provided the uh, better look and feel in this particular space. Now, you might have noticed on the top, you also see the option to reconcile in worksheet. What it means is you don't have to go into the cash and bank and go into the navigation to bank reconciliation. You can directly go and click on the reconcile in worksheet. What it means is Microsoft is trying to, do some flexibility in this particular space where you can, directly create those reconciliation journal from this particular bank statement. Also, if you will be having a different bank statement, multiple bank statement, you might have imported it, and there are multiple reconciliation journals you have created it against one single bank statement. So you will be able to see those particular information in this particular space. The moment you will be selecting this line, if it is already reconciled for you, then you will be able to see what reconciliation journal it is linked to. So you don't have to find out and look into those particular entries. If you want to audit those particular transaction back, then you can be able to see those particular details in this particular space. Yeah. Now, what I have done is I have imported the bank statement for you, and I will go and click on the reconcile in worksheet. I will go and click new, and I'll put the cutoff date for today and go into the worksheet. Another look and feel that we have noticed is unmatched transaction that is appearing it in this particular space. So there are no any other grids that shows you match transaction and new transaction and other stuff. Everything have been shifted into the tabs here called match transaction, and you will be able to see the bank statement transaction. On the right hand side you will see the company transaction if we have any, or if you have made the reconciliation against the new transaction or the matching rules that will be creating the customer transaction, it will just appear it in this particular space. Okay. So before I go and click on the reconciliation matching rules, what I would do is I will take you to the matching rules setup to show you what these particular changes are being made, and we will apply those particular matching rules in this particular worksheet. So I'll go into the cash and bank management. Under setup, we have got the matching rules. So if you see this particular screen, Microsoft have introduced couple of more enums and the functionality in this particular space. Initially, we were able to see match with bank document, uh, mark new transaction, and clear reversal statement lines. Other than that, we did not had rest of those particular information in the classic advanced bank reconciliation. So Microsoft have introduced a lot of option for us to do the matching rules, and it's making customers life very easy, and it's making a seamless process rather than manually check those particular entries and create those entries and then rerun the matching rule for them. So first thing first, the most likely functionality that the client really liked it is the settle customer invoices. What it means is, if I'm going to choose the settle customer invoice, if we have the customer transaction in the bank statement, let's say customer settle invoice. And if I'm going to choose this, the whole functionality, the whole picture of this particular setup has been updated and changed. Now you can be able to see further details that is pointing out to the customer. Assuming that I am going to choose the bank transaction code to 000, and if I'm going to say the trading party details is demo. So if we are going to receive the demo as a reference in my bank statement, then I can point out to the specified customer. So what system will do is system will automatically create the debit my bank and credit my customer. And what will happen is behind the scene, it will also do the settlement if there is there's an invoice appearing it for the same customer account. Yeah. And again, you have to inform the system that, yeah, either this is a direct debit transaction or any other FPOS transaction or POS related transaction. You will be choosing the right information and you will tell what type of transaction it is just for the reporting purpose. Yeah. If I go into the generate voucher, now Microsoft have just renamed this particular functionality into a generate voucher. This functionality and this functionality is the same. There is no difference between these. If I click on mark new transaction, it will say that this particular functionality has been deprecated because we are using the modern bank reconciliation. So whenever you have the service fees, merchandise fees, or any unknown fees that bank is charging you at the end of the month, so what you will be choosing is you will click on the generate voucher. The benefit of this, most of our customer really like it, is you don't have to maintain the transaction code mapping. Everything will be defined in this particular space. So you can define your offset account in this particular area by defining the transaction code. I have the example available here, so I will just use this merchant service fees. So generate voucher will be chosen as an action, and here you will be selecting the offset account where where do you actually want to point out this particular entry, and also the system will also pick up the financial dimension as per what you have defined it. Okay. In classic advanced bank reconciliation, either we had to define the bank under the bank master, you have to define the financial dimension, or you have to define the financial dimension on the main account to reflect the right financial dimension. So they have done a pretty good job in this particular space where we can be able to define the financial dimension by itself. So one of my customer has uh, 12 FPOS registers, and they would like to make the payment and entries based on the specified FPOS. And they have a different dimension to be allocated to that. So with the help of this particular functionality, you can be able to choose a required financial dimension as per your need. Yeah. Uh, okay, I will just quickly check. Generate vendor payment. This is nothing but just a similar kind of concept of making a payment through the bank reconciliation. So if I go and select this particular option, the concept is similar as what we have talked about from the customer side, but this particular one is going to talk about the vendor. So you might have the scenario where the power bills or broadbands or those kind of bills which will be a direct debit. So in that particular case, you might be having some reference code that will be appearing it onto the bank statement. So you can refer those particular information in this particular space and point the vendor account code so that system can rectify those particular transaction and create those ones by itself. Now, there is no any option for the settlement. So this particular settlement feature is only activated for the customer side. So if you have any outstanding invoice against this particular vendor, you have to go into the AP and go into the vendor master and go into the settlement to settle those two transactions. So that particular functionality is still not there, but the good thing is the system process the payment by itself by looking into the transactions. The customer payment is again similar to what we have discussed. It will not settle any invoices. It will just find out the transaction and it will just create those customer payments. So you have to go into the collect option and do the settlement manually. Now, there was a question that one of my customers basically asked is, what if I would like to make the settlement and as well as I would like to do the customer payment as well? So you can do that. In D365 FinOps, we have a matching rule set. What it does is you have to set the priority what matching rules should run first. So what you can do in this particular space is first you define this settle customer invoice matching rule in your set, and then you can define the generate customer payment. What will happen in this particular case is whenever the automatic process will run for you, the system will automatically run the settle customer invoice first matching rule, and then if the system is unable to find the invoice, then it will just create the general customer payment. Okay. Clear reversal company transaction. If we have made some just activated, if we have any transaction available and you want to reverse that, you can use this particular functionality and define those particular information that yeah, this particular transaction have made in FNO, but we we will not expect those particular transaction in the bank statement. The system will automatically clear those particular transaction for you by itself. There may be other way around where the clear reversal statement lines occur. What it means is we have not processed any transaction in FNO, but we have made a couple of transactions through the online banking portal and then cancel or reverse those particular transaction right away. But those particular entries will be appearing it into the bank statement. So in that particular case, you can utilize this particular action in order to clear those particular entries for you. Yeah. So system will automatically choose those particular entries and it will clear those particular entries for you. So there are a couple of other setups that I have defined it in this particular space to have a clear understanding on those particular matching rules. Yeah. So I will go back into the bank reconciliation worksheet and let's try to run the matching rules here. Assuming that I'm going to use this customer direct debit. And again, you can use the matching rule set so it will run all together for you. So you don't have to run one by one. It's just to give you a better understanding. So I'm just trying to run it one by one to make you understand that how this particular functionality works for you. Okay. The message says that one of this particular transaction has been created and posted. So what it means is the AP or AR team do not have to wait for those particular transaction or the whole bank statement is being reconciled. The system will automatically do the posting for you. If I quickly go into the journals here, and if I show you the customer payment, this is the same journal which I have created it and defined it on the uh, bank master option where I defined the customer journal and the AP journal. And here you can see that those particular transaction has been processed. Again, this is a demo data. I can see that the transaction has been credited instead of debit. So when the money is coming in, so it should be debit for us. Yep. So I'll just quickly run one more instance. I'm just looking into the time as well. So let's say if I run this particular matching rule as service fees, okay, let's have a look. So this is again the generic, the standard classic advanced bank reconciliation functionality, which has has been renamed to generate voucher. So you can see that those particular entries has been posted and created. Now for these generic transactions, the system is not creating any journal for you, but it will just create the voucher. The sub-journal sub-ledger, where whenever we are going to use sub-ledger, APAR and the AP transaction, then it will just create the journal. Whereas for the GL entries, it will not create any sort of journals. Okay, why we are not seeing the voucher at this stage? Because it is sitting in the transfer GL uh, periodic task. So it will come through in some time. I'll just quickly run one more transaction, which will be, let's say, clear reversal transactions. So what we'll do is we'll see the net impact here. So I created those particular transactions, and those particular transaction has been reversed as there were no transaction available in the bank statement. So again, uh, the the system is becoming very smart, but there are a couple of issues which I have identified that those particular issues should be rectified and fixed by Microsoft. So that's pretty much from the demonstration perspective. I would like to share my experience with you to explain what was the challenges which I have basically identified during my implementation and what Microsoft should be investing on this particular space. So the first thing first, Microsoft need to improve the data entity, because when we have Microsoft have opened a door to define the customer payment transaction and the vendor payment transaction, then obviously we are not talking about only 10 transactions. There may be 50 or 100 transactions, and for that we have to have some simplified data entity so that we can be able to easily create and update those transactions, because it has several rules and conditions that we have to consider and proceed further. Second thing is the bank statement formats. In ANZ, I have worked on several banks here. Some of them are using BI2 file format, some of them are using GIF file format, and some of them are using MT940. So we need to have some standardized formats which ANZ region is following up, so that we shouldn't be making lots of changes through electronic reporting. Some of the time, we have to update the information that, yeah, when we import the bank statement, the debit amount is reflecting into the credit amount, and the credit amount is reflecting to the debit amount, and it's a bit cumbersome to make those particular changes in so those particular changes should be considered by Microsoft rather than we keep making those particular changes in the system. While demonstrating it to you guys, I have noticed that the settle vendor invoice matching rule should be introduced by Microsoft, same as what customer invoices. So this is one of the most wanted from the customer side, that this particular feature will be required for their business, so that it should have a seamless process rather than we go and settle those particular entries. Okay, one single bank statement journal is allowed to open. So this is one of the another issue that I have rectified, and we have made some customization in this particular space. So uh, at this stage, most of the bank send the bank statement every single day. So in that particular case, the treasury team sometime unable to process or reconcile those particular journals. And when the new bank statement appears, the system will not run the matching rules because the reconciliation journal is already created or available and setting as open or draft status. So what changes I have made through the customization was I have updated the cutoff date as today's date. So, and with the help of that, we have used the same functionality as Microsoft have provided to process the matching rules and do those matching rules by itself. So we updated the cutoff date and proceed further, and it was working pretty much fine for our customer. So this was a major item that I think that Microsoft should consider to make this particular whole process seamlessly. Um, Again, as I mentioned that when we have opened the door for the customer and the vendors automation process, obviously, if we will be having 50 or 60 banks and multiple legal entities, this particular process will slow down the process for you. Most of the bank, they usually provide the bank statement between 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So if we are going to introduce those particular batch jobs and process those particular statements, the system, there are possibilities that the system will slow down for a wee bit, and it will cause a problem for performing the day-to-day entries. As of now, I have seen that there's a performance issue when we are talking about 80 odd legal entities and 50 different bank accounts in multiple legal entities. So it is causing the issue. But I think for the you know small business or medium business, there won't be much issue from the performance side. Microsoft is still looking into those particular space, but yeah, these are the lesson learned from my side while implementing this particular functionality. Last thing which I forgot to show you in my demonstration, I will just like to quickly take you in this worksheet. As I mentioned earlier, that these are the bank statement area where you can create the generate payment journal. So this is a new feature again came up, and that's what I started my conversation with you guys. Is you will be able to define either this is a customer payment or the vendor payment, and either what is a customer account here, what will be the method of payments, and so forth. And you can define the specified date if you want to, obviously the bank transaction type and the uh, financial dimension in this particular space. And you can also settle those particular transaction against the invoice and generate those particular payment. So this particular functionality is very good in terms of processing those entries rather than going into those AP and AR. The only problem which I have identified is sometime treasurer does not have the authority to process those transactions. So the other people like AR team has should have some approvals to proceed further to create those particular entries. Yeah. I will open for the floor for question and answer. So let's see what do we have here.
All right, so we will just mute Zishan yourself when someone is asking question, just to manage the audio. And once they are finished asking the question, then I'll unmute you.
Can Can you hear me, Zishan?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yep, he can, right? Yep. Thank you. That was a good presentation. I just wanted to ask you if you have any scenarios of credit card statement reconciliation.
No,
Um,
credit card is different. It's coming up from the expense management module. So that's a separate topic than what we have covered here.
you'll handle the that side of reconciliation. Or it's a different user
No,
case.
yeah, it's a different reconciliation, which is your credit card transaction that's covered under the expense management module.
So what was
Can you
that?
repeat the last question? Can you
Which
go
was
from the start? Yeah. Ask the question from the start.
okay. Yeah, I was trying to ask, how do you handle international bank reconciliations?
Okay, for international bank reconciliation, there's a couple of other functionalities are coming up, which will allow you to update the exchange rates. So whenever you are processing your transaction, there are several conditions that you perform at the time of making the payment. Either it's a spot rates, either it's EFC, which is the dealer rates and other stuff. So whenever you make the payment, the exchange rates will be different than what FNO will be considering it. So there's a functionality in this particular space where you have to run the foreign currency revaluation for your particular transactions, and then you will be processing those particular entries. So it is not straightforward, but it is doable through the modern banking reconciliation.
All good. Any other questions? Yeah. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Zishan. Great presentation. I have a question on performance. So you had mentioned something about some performance metrics. So in terms of large customers, for example, Officeworks, like what is the number of, in your view or your experience, what is the number of transactions, max transactions, and can that be further automated by the AI and uh, the rules that we have?
Uh, well, it's a very good question here. Look, I haven't seen much on the performance issue. In terms of matching rules, whenever we have one of my customer has 119 legal entities and they have roughly three different bank accounts. So when we were running those particular bank reconciliation import mechanism, obviously the matching rules kicks in because we are trying to do a seamless process. So there shouldn't be a manual intervention at all. So once we start the business, those particular transactions should be meshed. But one of the situation what we had is we were trying to run the matching rules, and the system was keep popping us that behind the scene the matching rule is running. So there was a bash job which was running and it was constantly running, and that's where we have already raised those particular issues to Microsoft to mitigate those performance issue. The number of transaction which we were dealing with one of the bank statement was around 250 to 80 lines of the transactions. So I still believe personally that there will be performance issue will take place. As you can see that when I ran one single matching rule instead of the set, it was taking a lot of time because behind the scene there are lots of modules are being involved: ap, ar, gl. So, and not only that, in ap or ar, if we have some discounts offered on the invoice, that is also been done through that particular functionality. So it is checking a lot of areas, lot of things are happening behind the scene. That's why it's taking lots of time. I'm not sure about the performance, how Microsoft is going to deal with this, but according to my experience, it's a bit slow if we are talking about the large number of the customer.
Thank you, Zishan. I think there is one online question, and then maybe if there are any more questions, we can take them offline with Zishan. Yeah, so there is one question which is on your screen.
Okay. Yeah, I think Moksha, I have already responded in my demo that for the journal voucher, the system will not create any journal. It will just create the voucher, same as what classic advanced bank reconciliation does. So the journal will only create for AP and AR. So, yep.
Thank you, Zishan. Anyone else want to ask any question? All good. Thank you so much, Zishan. That was an amazing presentation.
Applause for Zishan.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. All right. So now, after seeing the modern bank reconciliation features, I can say finance consultants will have more work to do than developers. Okay. So next round of the Wheel of Fortune. Let's bring up the wheel. If you have not checked in, check it in. Check in your name. Okay. It's already running. Talha Tanveer. Tala Masood. What happened? Okay, it goes to Tala. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, so
Next one.
You are our sponsor, so we'll confess the. Okay.
So now we need some modern bank reconciliation happening. Yeah.
It's like putting money in your own pocket. You know?
This time you made it, Shivangi. Congratulations. Pizzas are arriving at 7:30. So one more session to go after this. Vijay.
Yay.
Hey.
How many left? I think last one we should keep for maths. Yeah.
Two more.
There we go.
Who? Clark Peters. Where's Clark? Last one of this round.
No.
Ooh. Yay. Neri. Congratulations. So guys, Neri is a Microsoft Learn student ambassador. So thank you, Neri, for coming us and bringing more students with you.
Thanks, man.
All right, so we are done with this round.
Yeah, I think we can do like 25 minutes more, one session, and then we'll go straight to the.
So we have last session by Hisham. Hisham is present here in person, and he will be talking about business process analytics. He has some really cool demo lined up for us. So please welcome Hisham.
Thank you.
Just give him a few minutes to set up his machine. Yeah.
Nice.
Can I talk about that?
If you think all these needs to hear it. Yeah. So your screen is off.
Okay. My screen. This is my screen. Okay. Okay. Hi everyone. Do you hear me?
You guys, we are starting the session.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome everyone, and thanks again for joining us. Special thanks for ANZ community and sponsors, volunteers as well. So today our session will be light. I will not take too much time because I know most of the people are. Okay. So our session today is about exploring the business performance analytic for Dynamics 365 Finance. Okay. My name is Hisham Said, senior technical consultant. I have around maybe 15 years of experience. I started as technical consultant, then functional consultant, and currently I'm in between work with application managed service team. So before we start, there are 3 key pillars for any financial system. Start with planning, recording, and then reporting. So reporting is very important stage, while it's very important to take a driven decision, and we should to consider about the data and analytic until reporting. So let's explore together what is for today. We'll take an overview about business performance analytics, process architecture, data architecture, and difference between business performance analytics and business performance planning, demo and question. Okay, before we start, there is some challenges and feedback comes up from the customers. They need something to cover all their needs about the reporting because their data is spread between different applications. These applications might be legacy applications or third party or ISV, whatever. And also they need to get this all data correlated to create one report, which is another challenge. And to analytics and reporting requires some development effort and cost time. So at the end, if we finding insight in the data, is also consumed sometimes. So we come to the vision of turning data into action to improve business performance. One extensible solution for reporting, analytics, and insights as well. We need something to give us a holistic view while we can make some slice and dice and go deeply with data through drill to find the specific information with huge number of transactions. So here at Business Performance Analytics, we start in the beginning, as we mentioned, with Dynamics 365 Finance, Supply Chain, and so on. And in the right-hand side, we can find different type of application. It might be ISV, legacy, or whatever. So all together, correlated through data models. This data model content on different business process, like record to report, procure to pay, order to cash, and so on, which is work together to expose the data in different channels like Excel, Power BI, or even through extensible like Microsoft Fabric. So here's some thing very important to know. We need the people to be delightful through use the tool or doing their daily work. So we need to prioritize the experience for the user. We need to make the development more easier for the reporting, and also it can be easy for use through Excel or even through Power BI, and also to be easy for collaborate with other stakeholders. Meanwhile, we need to consider with data and data security through rules and security for these reports. So we have ability to add user or even use the standard rules or custom rules that will give us a permission to access a specific dimension, legal entity, or combine together with legal entity and dimension with the ability to make extensible, which is mean for data model, we can add or customize or edit the current data model, and we can enable integration with ISV and other third-party apps to work as a correlated application for reporting and easy for upgrade. So here's the process. As we mentioned, there is data model. Every data model from this content on different business process. For example, we have record to report, start with budget and so on, book to pay, order to cash, acquire to retire, something like that. So some data model, it content at the end to give us data value chain. This data value chain concept, it can work horizontal or vertical to get a specific information. For example, I can get information from invoice to be reflected to GL. So how PBA work? PBA work to get the data from finance and operation to be loaded to Lake, which is work to give us semantic or data set to Power BI, while can Power BI expose this data to Power BI or even through Excel, or it might be through Microsoft Power Platform driven application. Here's the roadmap. Okay, it will be general availability in next month, October, and of course there is some extent for the current data model to cover different business process. We'll come to the demo after these next slides for data architecture. This is very important concept we need to discuss. Okay, 1 second. Okay, here we go. We have key components for data model. We have fact table and dimension table. What's fact table? Fact table is mainly considered with quantitative and transaction like amount, quantity, and so on, and is a central table for dimensional model. What's the dimensional model? It's a concept from Microsoft to provide us ability to customize very complex query with the best performance. So dimension table is something to store descriptive for the fact table. If you remember the relational table before between primary and foreign key, we have example here for sales amount, quantities sold, data key, product key, and the right hand side we can find product key, product name, and so on. This two table has a relation through product key. Let us go for a demo. If I would like to browse to business performance analytics, here
if you can duplicate the screen.
Okay.
Then we'll see all that.
1 second. Wait. So everybody see the system? Okay. We have Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance, and we have these workspaces, and here we can find something new apps, which contain on different stylish icon for business performance analytics, invoice capture, and business performance planning. We will start with business performance analytics. If you click here without complete setup and configuration, you might receive an error. While we complete it, it will take us to another 365 app. We have two main components here. First one is administration and reports. Administration contains on user rules. Of course, the user to give access, and the rule to give specific rules for specific users, or to customize the rule. As we mentioned, the rule it might be contained on access to specific dimension or specific data, a specific legal entity, or combined together. And we have dimension. Business performance analytics give us ability to use up to 5 financial dimension, and we can make different dimension group or combine different financial dimension together for one group. So if I would like to browse the reports, for example, we have filter here. We can find by Microsoft to see the standard reports. When I click here, we can find list of standard reports that cover different business process for supply chain, for finance, and so on. For example, I will come to trial balance. I need to browse. I will click here. I find a list of filter, which is make trial balance more dynamic and powerful rather than for using from D365 Finance. In the beginning, we have the first filter to make it transaction, for example, and here list of legal entity. I will use USF as a standard one, and I will select the date for the current year. Sorry to talk very fast, but I have a limit time, and I need to show the demo. So.
You guys arriving at 7:40.
Okay, and here I can make drill. So the layout, it will be changed as per I make drill and drill. So it come more detailed here for trial balance. For example, I would like to get some details about account payable for domestic account. So I come here and I see that there is some high amount here. I need to have more information about this. So I make right click, drill through and transaction. It take me to more detail about this. If I make the similar way for drill, I can see all transaction under this account for different dates, for different journals. Okay, this is for standard reports. We come again here, we can find some other reports with different name, which is mean we can do some duplication from the standard one or even create some report from scratch. So for this reason, we have another layout from trial balance. I will make search for about it. This duplicated from the standard one. I should select contain instead of equal. Similar, same way for filter in D365 Finance. Here we go. We can find trial balance for a demo. If you can see here, once it open, it gives me the same style I did for the previous steps exactly, because I make it and save it here. So and also make some changes to give us information about quarter. So it's trial balance for different quarters. Similar, if I come to the same account for account payable under domestic, I can find there is some huge expense in third quarter. I need to get more information about this, so I will make drill through transaction details. It take me for more detailed report for list of transaction, contents on date and journal number. If I select any of this journal, I can see that it changes and give me all the information about this journal. Similarly, use original document in D365 Finance. Okay, this is not everything that we can also make some customize, as we mentioned. We can do some duplication from the original report. For example, we have this standard one for general ledger transaction details, and I need to add financial dimension to be as a filter. When I change the financial dimension, it can display different data. Here I can find all the information for all the legal entity. Okay, so let me go for edit.
This is a very powerful feature. We can't do this in management report.
Yes. Once I make the application, it will take me for a copy from the standard one. I will show in just a few seconds. I can make a complex customization for this report. It might be take weeks if I will make it from scratch in D365. All right, so we come here. I press edit. It gives me for another interface for Power BI. I would like to, as we mentioned, to use financial dimension. So I will take the financial dimension name, and you can imagine this is a list of all financial dimension we have. Okay, I will make it a little bit small while I can add another control. Okay, and this I will change it to the layout to be table. Okay, and this one will be slicer. Okay, so you can find the list of financial dimension like agreement, business unit, and so on. And I will take another one to give me the value of this financial dimension, which is mean that when I select one of the financial dimension, it gives me all the data value for this financial dimension. Okay, let's start by select business unit. So if I select a business, let me change this first to slicer as well. So if I select business unit, you can find the list of business unit here. If I select one, you can see the data, it will be changed. Okay, so this is not enough for me. I need to add also the financial dimension here. So I will drag this to be added here. So when I change the data again, I can see the data is changed and the dimension to be included in the report. Okay, so let us come to the last demos as today. So I need to do some report using Excel add-on, and this report should be from scratch to give me all the information about general ledger transaction, for example. So I will create new report. I will give it a name, for example, 01 GL, and then I should to select Excel and then create. So it asked me to install add-on for Excel to make a connection between Excel and business performance analytic. So I find this the first one. When I click, as I mentioned, ask me to download and install this add-on. I already completed this configuration, so no need for do that again. I will open the file, the Excel file from here, and they give me a pivot table that I can make a very dynamic report in just a few seconds. First of all, I need to make this enable. Here is a pivot table. It might be asking me for 1 second. Yeah, to access again, I should use the same account I access D365 Finance. All right, successfully. Okay. I will click the pivot. It gives me the fact and dimension list of tables that I will use it with my report. First of all, I like to get the amount. Amount should be under matrix, and I will get this amount here, and then I will drop this amount here. Okay. Then I would like to add list of ledger accounts. It should be under dimension as a descriptive for the fact table. So if I write them here, we can find the general,
It should be account.
Yep, I found it. I put it here. So you can find list of general ledger. Okay. Then I will add some facts about this ledger. Yep, like I need to add currency, so it's easy for me, and period type, posted by, and posting number, and time as well. Okay, so let me change the layout for this pivot table to make it classic while I can see of everything clear. So I come here, right click, come to the pivot, and then come to display, and then make it classic. So press OK. See, every account with all the details. Okay. Okay, this is not also enough for me. I need to add some parameters. So I will add the legal entity as a parameter. It's easy for me. And then the year. So I can select one legal entity for a specific year. So when I change, I can select all to select all the transaction on all the years, or I can select a specific legal entity. So let me check one of the legal entity, USMF, for example. And data should be changed. So I can save this file for me as I make a very complex report using business performance analytics. Okay, this is the last demo with us, just a couple of minutes, and then welcome with your question. Here is the cost of BBA. There is no extra cost when using a standard Dynamics 365 Finance. Only the cost if you will make some extensible using Microsoft Fabric, and the data it should be used for 3 years historical data, in addition for the current year. So installing is very straightforward. There is some step here, and you will receive a link from Microsoft to access the App Store to install Business Performance Analytics. And for the last point with us now, what is Business Performance Planning? What's the difference? Business Performance Planning, especially for forecasting, and with an option that I can manipulate the data or make some insertion for the data, rather than it for business performance analytics to expose the data only. So here's the demo, here's the reference, and any question? I think very fast. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, please.
Let's start one by one.
What? Okay.
Yeah, so I have a question regarding like how can we implement the security within the report? So one is like the security in terms of accessing that CRM instance that is hosting the PPA. But let's say, for example, if we have the user has access to a certain report in PPA, but we don't want the user to see the transactions for a given cost center or for a given legal entity.
Yes, we have this ability to make a custom rule to give to make the user access specific dimension for a specific legal entity or combined together. You can make we can make the user see only, for example, cost center for a specific legal entity, or even cost center and departments, whatever, or make it mix it together for one legal entity or other, and then you can assign to the user.
Okay, and the next question is that is there a limit? I remember that you mentioned that there is a limitation of financial dimensions, that there is a maximum 5
Yes,
financial dimensions.
currently until 5. Yeah, if you have more in D65 finance, we can use until now. Yeah, another question? Yes, please.
Does it extend to sales performance analysis and custom item statistics?
Say again, please.
Does this BPA extend to sales performance analysis and custom item statistics?
There is some other business process coming, so it might be available, or you can make extend for Microsoft Fabric, or even through Microsoft Power Platform driven app.
Basic sales data should be in order to cash value.
Yeah. Okay. Any other question?
You mentioned that there were 2 refreshes a day.
Yes,
How
exactly.
quick is the,
Before it was 1 and currently become 2. In the future, it might be more. It might be up to 4. It might be.
So we don't have control over it, like it's every 15 minutes? Or
No, it's from Microsoft, managed by Microsoft, not from the business user. Yeah.
Hopefully, once it becomes GA, it might improve.
Yeah.
It's still in preview.
But then you have financial reporter.
All right. Thank you for your time and for joining. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Okay. You can take it.
All good.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You need the mic?
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.
Wheel is gone, so we all will get voucher now. What's happening? So the drill is we'll play that last round of name wheel game, and then we will have a group photo here. So before we go for pizza and drinks, I would request everyone to come here. We'll take a group photo, and then we are open for networking. Ready, Amar?
Yeah, we can trust you with one. You can run it and tell us when it comes up. I think you have to join the studio again.